Hello and welcome to season 2 of In the Flow with Robin Wilt and Jessica Kay. We are so excited to be back. We've taken a break and I feel like we've become brand new people. So we decided to start a season 2 and let you continue to hear about our adventures, our learning, and everything that we have to share. So we hope that some of it is valuable, and if it doesn't resonate, then let it go. And if it does, then let us know. We would love to hear about what you think, what's important to you, and what you'd like to hear about because both Robin and I have quite a bit of expertise in the metaphysical, the astrological, and spirituality, and following our own inner voice. So please pull from our expertise.
Use us, use us. Hey guys, we've missed you. It's funny. How long? I meant to look and see how long. Sorry, Allie's here. She's joining. How long the break was that we took, but it seems like we both just had a lot of stuff going on. Like I had a big job change, had some other things going on in life. I guess it was maybe 6 months or so, right? Does that
About six
seem
months. Yeah, so it's definitely before November.
yeah. Yeah. So what's been going on with you, Jessica? What's been shaking as we've gone
Ooh.
through, we ended that 9 year and now we're in the 1 year in numerology. We came out of the snake last year. We're in the fire horse. So I feel like that's kind of moving things. We had the eclipses. Yeah, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I will say over the last 6 months, I've definitely started embracing my Scorpio a lot more. So I'm a Scorpio rising, Aries sun, Libra moon, and Scorpio rising. And so it's, interesting. Got the Aries, the Libra. I was born on a full moon. And I never quite thought about it, but Libra moon, which then leads into the Scorpio rising. And I definitely resonate a lot with the Scorpio. That is how I show up in the world. But I definitely feel that fire of the Aries and that balancing of the emotions with the Libra moon. But this year I did a Delta and Gene Key, so that's where like a group of 7 of you meet together for 8 weeks, and that was throughout Scorpio season, and it was with I don't think everybody, like all 7 people were Scorpios, but at least half of the people were either Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising, or Scorpio sun. So it was really intense transformational period, and it led to a lot. So the transformation was very intentional, and that's what I think about with astrology. All of this stuff kind of happens to you whether you pay attention or not. But when you're aware of it, you can really lean into it. And, it's the difference between the wave crashing against you and you riding that wave. So a lot of really transformational things have transpired since then. But I'll go ahead and pass it over to you and let you give us a little glimpse about what's been going on for you.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, you know me, like Gemini sun over here. As you were talking, I was like, oh, I need to look and see if what's going on in Scorpio right now, because
Ah.
Scorpio has also been coming up for me lately. There's not even any planets in Scorpio right now, which is
No.
interesting. But um, my Scorpio in my chart shows up in my 10th house of career, and my midheaven is actually in Scorpio. So it's been
Ooh.
funny because right, you can interpret all of these things in lots of different ways, which is why you use your intuition to interpret things and to kind of, be open to the energy. But for me, a lot of times it shows up in that I transform things. So I took a new job. I have been there a year, which I still can't believe. Like it flew by. Um, the field, I had worked in the field before, but I took a different position and I came back after being gone for like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years. Um, but I find that I'm naturally able to transform things and to also improve them, which I really do enjoy. But what I realized is that, right, sometimes people are better at change than others. And Scorpio is all about change, right? It's a water sign. It's ruled by, isn't it ruled by
That's
Pluto
what I was
and
just looking up. So it's ruled by
yeah.
Pluto. I was going to say Neptune, but it's not. It's Pluto, with
Hmm.
Mars serving as its traditional ruler.
Yeah, that's what I thought Mars and
Well, I
Pluto.
guess
So
with Pluto moving into Aquarius, like we're getting a different version of Pluto, so that's
mhm.
going to bring up a lot of scorpionic themes.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And right, Pluto is like such a transformer. So a friend of mine, mentor of mine, told me a couple years ago, and I found this so interesting to look at it because again, I think we fight change so much that we're like, it's hard for us to surrender into it or to know the things that we're meant to be surrendering into. But what she said is like asking Pluto, what are you here to transform in me? And that, right, having that sense of willingness, having that sense of openness, it actually helps us to work with the energy instead of feeling like we're fighting against it. And I think it's funny. I just came from yoga right before we're doing this podcast, and my word or my intention was surrender. Like surrender has come up so much for me lately. And it's right, it's such a, oh, it's so fascinating to me because it's like knowing the things that you're meant to surrender and knowing the things that you're meant to change is that whole serenity prayer. Um, it's like I don't know. I don't think you're ever. I feel like we're always kind of walking that line between the two. And I had this thought today that um, sometimes we make decisions in our life or we show up and I just had this thought like a few days ago. I'm like, wow, if this turns out good, right, then I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I trusted myself. If this situation turns out shitty or I get hurt or, it's not whatever, like I have the potential to beat myself up and to be like, well, you knew better, you could have blah, blah, blah. Um, and I feel like the past year for sure, the past year, 2 years has been such a lesson for me in trusting myself, right? Trusting the universe, trusting myself. It's funny when I set that word as my intention a few years ago for the year, you never know how these things are going to play out, but it just looks so much differently than what I would have expected. So I personally have been just the way that like my intuition shows up is a bit different. I feel like it's when I was learning to use my intuition and I was like learning to hear my inner voice, it was very almost, it was louder. Like it was just kind of there in my face. And now it feels a little bit more subtle, um, which is not, sometimes that's a little bit more challenging. um, so yeah, I've been healing a lot of um, oh my God, healing so much stuff. I feel like the last year has been just very transformative and not at all what I expected and not at all where I thought I would be. But um, I feel like ending the 9 year and moving kind of into this new cycle, it feels like a much better energy. It feels expansive. It feels like there's new possibilities, new beginnings that are kind of opening up, right? Meeting different people, expanding into some different areas of my life. So it feels exciting. It feels refreshing. And I get to take all the things that I've learned over the last however many years of my life and kind of carry that into this new cycle. But yeah, it's interesting when you're at the beginning of new energy because you don't know what's going to happen or, and right, we never really know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. But I feel like the horse fire energy with this year is it feels very quickly moving, which would make sense, right? Fire and horse, they're very fast moving energies. How are you feeling it? Like, do you?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we've got the fire horse. We also have all the planets are direct until like Mayish. And we also have a lot of planets in Aries now. So I am feeling it. It's so funny. I'm gonna kind of rewind back and then I'll go forward to answer that. So surrender has also been a big thing for me. And I realized that in order to truly surrender, I had to trust myself and the universe. So it was like, okay, Jessica, are you willing to trust yourself and the universe? Which meant that I had to trust that where I'm at in my life, that no matter what comes in front of me, I can deal with. And that's been very interesting. Being back in the office and with my work stuff, I caught myself like playing over conversations and what was said and what's going to be said and strategizing and all of this stuff, which honestly, you could say, oh, well, I'm just mentally preparing, but it's a version of anxiety. And I would never have said, oh, Jessica, you have anxiety, but there was just so much mental activity around all of these conversations and what people thought and what it meant. And I realized that at the bottom of that was this core of, I have to act a certain way at work or else I'm going to get fired. And it's so funny because, I haven't been written up. There's not been any discipline. Like there may be stern conversations, but there's never been anything that would lead me to believe I was going to lose my job. But I had this kind of underlying belief. So when I was able to kind of excavate that and say, okay, over my 13 years with the federal government, 8 years with the state government, like I have never been fired from a job. So this is not really founded in reality. So can I trust myself enough to just show up, use my expertise as a person and in these various jobs to, do the best I can in that situation? It's like, well, history would say yes. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to like overthink or anything. And it's really interesting because what I found was that my mind was maintaining a facade that I was keeping that wasn't really me. So I was definitely keeping up appearances. And when I just showed up as I was much more vulnerable. And it kind of hurt sometimes, but I also learned from it. And I showed up very different and got very different responses from people. And I actually got feedback that helped me. So when I let go of like all of this pretense and all of this like mental construction, what would happen is, for me, I've been starting my day, and I think I probably mentioned this before, actually on this podcast, that the first 15 minutes of the day you need to claim for your own, set some intentions, do a little journaling or look at the stars or whatever you're going to do, but don't check email, don't do any of that stuff. Like it's yours. This is how the day is going to go. And I've been doing that. And so I started setting some really strong intentions around wanting to surrender, wanting to trust, wanting to show up as the best version of myself. So the universe and my higher self colluded. And like through the process of events, I was in a meeting and I was asked to do something and it automatically started like this spiral, right? Like it was like this trauma spiral because they were like, oh, well, you have a meeting with this higher up who I don't really get along well with, and things have not gone well. And so I immediately just started spinning, over explaining. And at one point they're like, Jessica, stop. You know, you're don't be, saying essentially I was talking negatively about one of the higher ups in front of other people, and they did not like that. The higher up wasn't in the meeting, but they're just like, we need to keep our business to ourselves kind of thing. Um, and so like that happened. I was like, oh my God, like I'm trying to trust the universe and show up as my best self. And, somebody just poked a little trauma bubble. My boss called me and was like, we can't be, saying negative things about leadership. And I, of course, like I knew she was going to want to talk to me because she said, just call me when you get a chance. So I started spiraling from there too. I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to get in trouble and this and that. And I was like, you know what? No, like, because truly deep inside, I didn't feel like I was going to get in trouble. Like, truly deep inside, I was like, everything's okay. Like, it's fine. So I was like, okay, I'm done. We're not going to shame spiral. We're not going to talk ourselves through all this. I'm just going to show up as who I am. So she said, Jessica, I just need to talk to you about that meeting and we can't say negative things about the boss, this, that, and the other. And I said, thank you so much for just, calling my name, bringing my awareness. I actually had a little bit of a trauma spiral in the meeting because you mentioned having a meeting with her and things haven't gone well over the years that I've worked with this person. And so I really appreciate you, helping me ground because I lost myself in that moment. And so like and she just didn't even know how to respond because I was like being 100% openly vulnerable like you triggered me. I had a
Yeah.
trauma spiral and here we are now.
Thank
Um
you. Yeah.
yeah, and so she was just like, "Okay, well I just need to make sure that we're on the same page." And I was like, "We are." And thank you for helping me when I was having a flashback from traumatic events. And it was like she wanted to like be like, "We're on this, I want to make sure we're on the same page." And I was like, "Yes, we're on the same page." And I'm also going to sit here in this moment and say, "You triggered a trauma response, and I want to make you aware of that." So it was just this very interesting thing where I don't know that she felt terribly comfortable with my vulnerability, but I was going to share it. And as much as she wanted to make sure that we were on the same page, I wanted her to make sure that we were on the same page. So it was just this really beautiful thing where, in the matter of a few hours, the universe was like, "So it's okay, right, for you to trust me? Because this whole thing happened. You may not have said it was like positive, whatever, but it actually like the trust and surrender that I can show up and be exactly who I needed to be really shifted a lot of stuff. I think in the way that I show up to work, the way I work with my boss, and all of that. And I just feel like the energetic ripple of that event, which it's been probably a month at this point, but the energetic ripple, it has changed the way like I function at work. Like, I don't know, it's just like something cracked open and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I can be vulnerable and I can be seen in my vulnerability, and it doesn't mean I'm going to lose my job. And I get to be human and I get to, I mean, I wouldn't even say it was a mistake. I was just showing up as
Yeah.
who I was. So it's just
Hmm.
really like fascinating. And I don't need to feel supported by my boss in that way. Like, I still reaffirm, like, this is where I'm coming from. And so it just felt so good. Like a part of me was like, it's okay to like have to be triggered and to show a trauma response and you're going to support me. And it's like, yeah, like I'm going to support you, little Jessica. Like if we're feeling
Hmm.
triggered or whatever, like it's okay. So it just like I really felt like that helped reintegrate a lot of parts of me and really allowed myself to show up for myself in ways that I would never have thought were possible. So, a little bit of a tangent, but it's just so fascinating. So, I feel like more of those kind of things are happening because I'm just like, I'm sitting on the fire horse. It's taking off. I'm not even holding on the reins. I'm just kind of like, okay, universe, you're not going to let me fall off and you're going to do what needs to be done. And so things are moving quick. Things are just moving very quickly. I'm having clarity around what I need to have clarity around. The rest of it is what it is. But that's where I just kind of like look down to my feet and I take a step and I have clarity for just that next step. Even though everything else may seem foggy, I don't have like 5 or 10 year plans. I used to.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what's the next right step? Like when you were like, hey, are we ready to start doing the podcast again? I was like, yep, sounds good. Now's the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's what I'm experiencing is like stuff's moving so fast, but I can just make one decision at a time.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because I've had that one of the thoughts I've had recently in my own life, and then right a lot of times because what we're healing individually is also like themes in the collective, right? And then also a lot of times we'll get downloads before we record a podcast. So I was in the shower and I was thinking about the fact that relationships, like healing relationships, keeps seems to be coming up. And then I just peeked at the chart and it made sense because of all the Aries energy, right? Like Aries and Libra are on that axis of the self with Aries, and then Libra, the balance like with the other and partnership and friendships and relationships. Um, so it's fascinating that, you know, just what you've shared, what people in my life have shared, what clients have shared, the things I see coming up in my own life, continually at work, like all of these things around relationships and right, how can I show up as myself and be accepted while also, like you said, being open to, oh, okay, hey, let me explain what happened. And then also like, thank you for helping me to, to stay grounded through this and to shift through this. I think yeah, it's very important. I think we're coming out of a time. maybe our parents' generation where codependency was like such a, it was just, that was the energy of that generation. They were meant to learn or experience that. And I feel like our generations are learning to be more autonomous, like more aware of like what our needs are, more aware of what another's needs are. Like, and then, okay, can we make that be something that we align with each other, right? Can we show up for each other? Can we have these conversations? Um, so I think it's really cool that, because I don't know a ton about the Chinese astrology with the horse. I don't know. I mean, horses run in packs, right? So
Hmm. They
kind
run
of
in
right. They're very
packs.
independent.
Yeah. They're animals of burden, so they're very strong, they're very powerful.
Yeah.
And that's what I've heard a lot with the horse and with the fire. It's just like there's a lot of very strong, steadfast energy that is moving very quickly. And with the
Yeah.
1 year, it just makes me think like that's really pushing to set the foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right, the way it was explained to me when I learned numerology is that right, it's a 9-year cycle or a 10-year cycle, whatever way you want to look at it, but 9-year typically. So year one, like, is the foundation. Yes, it's new beginnings, but it's almost like you're planting these little seeds, and it's like all of the seeds may not continue to grow, right? So you might try something during this year. Okay, actually, I don't really want to continue to put time and energy into that. And you might just kind of let it fall to the wayside, where other stuff you might put time and energy into it and realize, like, oh, okay, this is the energy is continuing to flow here. Or this feels right for me. This feels aligned for me. Um, Let me continue to show up and just see where it takes me. So yeah, it's just fascinating that I think sometimes we can think that, oh, this is like a new beginning that's going to stick. But what I like to do is like, I look back when we had a 1 year, 9 years ago, and I looked at all of the things that came up in my life during that year. And I started like so many things during that year. It was so cool. But not all of those are still in my life right now. I got to kind of play around with different things and meet different people and just, um, start that foundation, which is just, it's just cool. It's exciting to be in that space rather than the nine energy and the snake energy, which can feel like kind of enclosed and dark and very heavy. It's not fun to be in that and that um like when you think about snakes shedding, right? They kind of have to be, what is that word that I'm thinking? Not hibernation, but like almost in a um
It's a very vulnerable state, even like with
yeah.
crabs, soft shell crabs, right? They have
Mm,
to shed and then they're very much in this vulnerable state where you've got to build up new boundaries.
mm. Oh, the boundaries.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I had a friend that told me, like, I don't know, because I've had to work on boundaries so much. And I think that goes along with the Aries energy, right? And like, if we're really going to show up and be ourselves and like, ask for what we need and all the things, um, I felt like I was a champ at boundaries because I've had to work so much on them. And then the universe rocked my world with boundary lessons again. And I'm like, okay, could we just not anymore? Like, I just want to be done with this. But I feel like, especially if you're a sensitive person, if you're energetically very open, if you are on a self growth journey, I feel like boundaries are something that you just continue to come back to over and over again. And I don't know, it's just fascinating, like when we find ourselves with those themes.
Well, and we're never done. Like that's what like the lesson of the spiral and just we are never done. And when I accepted that, then it's like, oh, get rid of the expectation, get rid of the finality. We are never done. We are constantly, changing boundaries and taking different steps and changing goals and shifting what our life looks like. And
Yeah.
that's where I really think that, on the self-growth journey, spiritual journey, it's about discernment. So for
Mm,
me, and I'm really starting to understand like the present moment. Why is the present moment so important? Because we are only who we are in this moment. Like it constantly changes. So in this moment, the discernment of What is it I need to do? And that whole thing of not needing to be perfect. And that's, some of the themes of the eclipse was in Virgo. So it's like,
Mm,
let's let go of perfection. So try things out, have fun, have the discernment for what is just meant for now and what is meant to continue. Have the discernment about what the next right step is. Have the discernment, if my boundaries never changed, that would mean that I was never growing. So
mm,
yeah, now I'm very much in the same place as you. It's like all kinds of boundaries are changing. There is stuff that I would totally not allow any longer. And there's also things that because I have shifted who I am, I can allow because I don't feel so threatened by it. So it's
yeah,
just so fascinating because it's not just about like, okay, I'm setting new ones. It's like, no, we're gonna build a new fence because we actually need to be able to go in and out over there, but we really don't want things coming in from over here. So, this beauty of allowing things to not constantly be reassessed, but being flexible enough to allow them to shift, it makes me think of like my yard or, like that fence analogy. Like you may never go over into that part of your yard, but maybe at some point you want to. Okay, so
mm,
I need to get rid of this fence piece here because I want to be able to easily go in and out. I don't want to walk around. I want it to
yeah.
be easy now, or maybe I do like the extra trek. So I think that having that more soft, flexible approach, it's very much a feminine approach too.
Mm.
As we move through things, so when we talk about divine feminine and even for men like how can you espouse how can male and female espouse this feminine nature. It is about this idea of the spiral and flexibility and allowing things to change and not to be perfect because what you're holding right now is different than what you were holding a moment ago, so can you allow that to grow?
Yeah, I love that you shared that because it's sometimes I can't, like when you're in the middle of something or still figuring it out, like it's hard to have that awareness or that observation of it. But that makes a lot of sense what you were saying about, the boundaries. They do become like, I think when you're learning boundaries, and I think this is true when you're learning a lot of things, right? Like if you've been all one way or like very firmly on like one side of the pendulum, for you to learn the energy, you kind of have to swing to the other side of the pendulum, right? So if you didn't have any boundaries for a while, you're going to have like all these freaking boundaries. And then you kind of get to this balancing point where you're like, okay, I was over here, I was over here. Now I'm going to kind of bring it back in the middle. Um, and right, like evaluate it. All right, well, today maybe my boundary is I don't want to talk after 10 o'clock. And then maybe tomorrow it's right. It's okay. After 10 o'clock is okay. Whatever that is, it's like trusting yourself enough to know that not only are you going to be able to discern, what the aligned action is for you, but then also like not beat yourself up if things don't happen the way that you think that they should. So right that's where that self-trust comes in. Um, and the perfectionism, like I have such heavy Virgo placements in my chart. And my dad was a Virgo. So I have a lot of wounding around that whole perfectionism thing and just my career too. Like I do finances. So it's like that whole perfectionism thing, like it's it's part of what I like and it's part of what I do, but it has been historically it was not a great energy for me to have because I always had this internal voice that told me that like everything I did and everything I wasn't right or it could be better. Like even I had this realization probably like in the last 6 months that even on my healing journey, right? No, well, let's go back a few years ago. When I first started really getting into spirituality, I really thought that there was going to come this point where I was like healed and I didn't have anything else that I had to work on. So like obtaining perfection. And then um I don't know, like over the last 6 months or so, I realized that I still was kind of carrying that into therapy or into like my growth that I was trying to fix myself. And I had this realization. I was like, well, what if I don't come at it with that energy or that intention? What if I come at it as I want to love myself or I want to, embody who I am, or if I want to have like more self worth? Like, what if I kind of switch it from fixing myself into okay, I'm not a problem that has to be fixed or solved. Like, what if I could just love myself more? What if I could accept myself more? What if I could trust myself more? And I'm still working on that. I'm still remembering, that that is my intention, but it definitely is starting to shift. And I'm seeing, just how I treat myself, like being more gentle with myself, the way that I talk to myself. I find that talking out loud can be very helpful because when our voice is in our head, there's nothing that's kind of stopping it or questioning it. But when you start to speak it out loud or you start to put it on paper, you can see it a bit more clearly. You're like, oh, that's not very nice. Like, um, yeah, so it's fascinating when you kind of start, and that's I feel like that's a lot of what I've been working on too, is like um making my internal voice a bit kinder to myself because I can be kind to other people all day long and like lift them up and tell them how great they are. But for me to do that to myself, I didn't even know that I wasn't doing it. Sometimes those thought patterns that we have, like they're so entrenched in who we are and like how we've been conditioned that we don't even I had to have other people tell me like, hey, you're really hard on yourself, or hey, maybe you could be a little bit nicer to yourself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So it's like hearing that from other people, I was like, oh yeah, you're probably right. I don't really talk that nicely to myself. I gotta love that Virgo. So um yeah, that's been another big theme for me. And I'm thankful, right? I don't want to be a jerk to myself. Like, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because for me, it's a little bit of the opposite, but not quite.
Mm.
Just the I have a very analytical mind, and
Mhm.
it can has a tendency to be very judgmental, especially with systems, not necessarily people. I love my clients. I have endless compassion for, people that are willing to show up and be vulnerable and work through whatever they're going through.
Mhm.
But really for people that I have given power and authority to through hierarchy, I get real critical of that. And I notice that something would happen, and then I would have this whole like downstream effect of, well, I would do this or whatever. And all of that, language, the conversations I would have, like that whole thing was creating this pattern of negativity to where if there was something I didn't like, then I would kind of go on this ramble. And so I realized that that was happening. So I'm like, okay, there's a lot of energy spent towards kind of pointing out the faults of people in power that have authority. So what if I just didn't? Like, what if I just didn't give them my energy in that way? So I'd catch myself. Like something would happen and I'd want to be like, guess what? Blah, 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 and kind of go on this thing. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use my energy for that. I'm not going to use my relationships for that, like my friendships or my interactions. Like, I'm just going to kind of clean that up. What I realized when I did that is how much that kind of behavior I was internalizing too, but I wasn't
Mhm.
able to see it. So it wasn't that I was nice to other people, it was that I was like being critical of others. And that also then kind of fed the critical voice inside. And when I stopped using my energy in that way, I realized that I stopped being so hard on myself. And I didn't even need to like say, oh, well, I didn't even need to create an excuse for them. I just stopped it. Like I just stopped feeding that energy.
Mhm.
And it shifted enough inside to where I actually gave myself the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, there's space for something other to be happening there. And I actually caught myself recently saying, what happens if I made a mistake? Like, what if I did? Who cares?
Mhm.
What if we don't check that 4 times? What if we
Yeah.
don't like, oh, they put something wrong in the spreadsheet and had a whole conversation? Like, who cares? Like, what
Mhm.
if I made a mistake? What if things didn't go exactly as they should? Like, what happens if, because I'm not an accountant, as long as I'm showing up for my clients and doing what I need to do, there's something wrong in the spreadsheet. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I started allowing myself to make mistakes. And then I was just like, oh, then I noticed like somebody made a mistake and I was like, okay, we'll fix it. Big deal. Not, And so then I began giving, so it was like this feedback loop of stop having the negative talk around other people. and being critical of others' mistakes, allowing myself to make mistakes, and then I just allowed other people to make mistakes. And then it was like, oh, wait, you mean I don't have to spend all this energy making sure I don't make mistakes and other people don't make mistakes? I can just let that all go and not worry about if anybody's making mistakes. We just get to be us and have fun. And so it's funny how that all works. And I'll just wrap in here too, because this has all been with me studying the gene keys, and that's gene
Mm,
key 18, the shadow is judgment. So I just
mm,
started unpacking that and realizing how judgment was showing up and how I was using it to abuse myself and others, and that it really was the shadow frequency. It wasn't the gift, it wasn't
mm,
helpful. So it's just so fascinating kind of where I started with. I set this intention as I was looking at Gene Key 18, and then the universe was like, okay, we're gonna look at how you're judgmental and critical. Great, let's do that. And I was like, bing, 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 bing. And within a short period of time, I was able to move through it by just allowing the confrontation to happen because it's really confronting when you see your own behavior, when you actually witness it. So I think
mm.
that that's the how the fire horse is working for me because it's just running me right into my own nonsense and like, okay, can you see your nonsense and shift without beating yourself up? It's like, okay, I don't have any other
Mm.
choice because I know like right around the corner there's going to be something else that you're going to show me that I'm doing that I can shift. So let's just, yep, let's go ahead and just take it one bite at a time.
Yeah. I think that like so this oh, there was a talk by Matt Kahn, and I know I've mentioned it before, I've shared it. It's everything is here to help because I felt this was like, I don't know, when I was really starting on my spiritual journey and like being more intentional. There was a situation that kept coming up in my neighborhood. We had a HOA, but it wasn't like really hardcore, which I was thankful for because I'm just I don't know my whole feeling about HOAs. But there was a situation that kept coming up, and I listened to the because I was getting really annoyed. I was like, why does this keep coming up? And then I heard that talk by Matt Kahn, and right, it's everything is here to help. Like if something keeps presenting itself to you, it's coming up for a reason.
Mhm.
Like it's not here to annoy you, it's not here to tick you off. It's like it's here to help you to transform something, right? So I think after I listened to that, I was kind of armed with the knowledge. Okay, this is probably going to happen again because clearly this is here to. I was working on boundaries. So I think when I had that perspective shift, it was like, oh, okay, this isn't to trigger me. This isn't to piss me off. This isn't, whatever. It's like, this is something that's here that is helping me to evolve and to become a better person. And you may not even know what that is in the moment, but just having that attitude of like, okay, I'm here. This is happening. It does really shift the energy. And I'll share with you though, what you were talking about with the judgment thing. I really, really, really had that when I was younger. And I don't even know because it feels like it, and I can still have it at times, right? But for whatever reason, like that has shifted in me so much. And I'm sure it's a combination of things, but I think that just to say, right, because I have a friend that she judges herself for being judgmental, and I'm like, we're all judgmental. Like it just kind of shows up in different ways. And I think the lesson is different for all of us too, right? Because it can be a projection of you, right? You're judging other people, but you're also judging yourself. There's just so many, there's just so many flavors of funness when you're when you're on a growth journey. Ugh. Um, but yeah, I love that I feel like you're always like, okay, let me just do this. I don't know. It's a really cool trait that you have that you're able to do that because it's not easy. It's not
Mhm.
easy sometimes to lean into the things that make us uncomfortable, right? When none of us want to be uncomfortable. I think we adapt to it and we get better at it the more opportunities we're given, but being uncomfortable is not, it's not something that we typically sign up for. I think that's another thing that I've kind of been leaning into is like, there's a few things that have made me uncomfortable lately. And like, I find myself normally, trying to find something to like make myself not feel that discomfort. And lately I've just been sitting with it like, oh, okay, let me just see if I can sit here and breathe. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this. Let me just be with that rather than like trying to fix it or to understand it. That's always a big thing that I move into, like trying to understand things. And I'm like, well,
Mm.
you're not meant to understand it right now. So just see if you can be with it. um, yeah, I feel like having that attitude of just acceptance or whatever word you want to use can be really helpful. So if you're listening and you find yourself, I probably need to do that as well. Like, how can I lean into this more? Yeah, it's again, it's not the most pleasant thing sometimes.
Well, I can say too, and you've said it a couple different ways, but it's very much this idea of not having to think your way through it, not having to mental through it. Like that's kind of how I viewed it. It's like, I can have an uncomfortable sensation in my body and I can sit with it. And, oftentimes for me, there's a lot of imagery, a lot of remembered trauma, but I realized that I didn't have to like get caught in that video. I didn't have to experience it again. I just really what for me where I'm at right now, my body's asking me to just sit with it. So I don't have to remember everything. I don't, sometimes I will, sometimes I won't, but I can just let go of the reins and just let it flood out of me. And that's really been the biggest gift I've given myself is not have to sit there and dig through every little piece of the minutia. Like, can you just be present? Can I just be present with myself in that moment? And I realized too that I guess there's just new ways I've been able to view things. Like when I get caught in the story, then there's still a lot going on. And when I'm able to just let my body process through stuff and not have to be in the middle of the movie, there's a different level of healing that happens. So I felt like for the longest time, because I am a therapist, I felt like I had to sit there and get through every nitty-gritty detail and be able
Mm,
to like be okay with it and
mm,
unmoved and like, oh, I'm so good. And it's like you don't actually have to. Are there some things that you are, yes, sure. There are some things that you're going to need to do that to be able to pick it apart, and there's other stuff that just has to move through the system. And just allowing, like it kind of goes back to the trust and to the not holding on too tight, being able to just hold enough so it can just move through. Like I've just realized how important that is, that the stepping back, the being present is really helping me process a lot of stuff because sometimes it isn't ours. And that's what I
mm.
realized more than anything. Like I showed up to a meeting, so lots of work things. I showed up to a meeting and there was over 100 people in the room. And I have a tendency to kind of get kind of caught up before these meetings. I'm just like, oh. And a little human design, I have an open solar plexus, which means that I I'm a true empath. I can feel everything. So I can go into a room of high emotion and it feels overwhelming. So knowing this, I went into the Zoom room
Hmm.
and I just like stopped for a second before and I was like, okay, in this moment, how do I actually feel right now? And I was like, I actually feel okay. Like I'm feeling a little anxious about having to be in this kind of emotion soup, but I feel Jessica feels okay. I literally get into it and it was just like being hit by waves of emotion coursing through everything. And I just breathed and I breathed and I breathed and I was like, okay, what part of this is mine? And then all of a sudden it was calm. I was like, oh. Like, so really getting clear about even with the boundaries that I've set, what's mine and what's not mine. And that clarity of, okay, none of this is mine. So then I just started this visualization of everything kind of washing away from me and just being here with myself in the midst of it. And it was really pretty amazing.
Mm,
So I feel like at this point in my life, I'm actually, I am permeable. Like I know that, but I'm able to tell a little bit more about what's mine, what's not mine, and really working to not take on other people's stuff and, engaging in like a really good, like, psychic cleansing or, empathic self-care where I just at the, anytime I change, when I go to my car, I'm kind of letting go of stuff. And if a thought of work comes up while I'm at home, it's like, oh, clean, clean, clean. Like there's still stuff there. You got a little schmutz on the bottom of your shoe. So just using these things like, oh, like okay, like let's kind of, and I think that that's where, we started the conversation with me saying, I really am feeling my Scorpio rising. Like that's me
Mm,
just like diving in and like, okay, I'm going to consciously dive in and see what it feels like and what I can learn. And that feels like it does. It feels like I'm more in control. Like I'm choosing to dive in and feel this and allow that to inform me instead of like, oh God, I got to go to this meeting and it's going to be really overwhelming. So it's like,
mhm.
okay, like you said, everything's here for a reason. What is there to learn? Well, to learn what's mine and what's not mine. How can I sit in a meeting and not be overwhelmed by everybody in the room? Great. That's a great skill, right?
Yeah.
So that's me diving into the Scorpio, and I just feel like that's going to be happening for a while.
I want to share something and I'll share this first. So again, just kind of, I feel like all these themes are kind of looping back around, right? If you had gone into that space and you were like, oh, I'm so like put out, and you had been in dramatic, whatever mode, you wouldn't have gotten the benefit of that lesson. Whereas like you were just showing up and like, oh, okay, let me just play around with this a little bit and feel into it and see, um, is this mine? Even just start to be curious. I think bringing that curiosity to it is like so powerful. But I'm in a space right now, and somebody shared a podcast and I listened to it. I want to share. So it's The Higher Self with Danny Morell, and it's episode 197, How to Break Free from Victim Mentality. So what he talks about is this really simple process that you can take yourself through. And I was asking the universe, like, hey, how can I, like, what I've noticed recently for me is like, I go into stories about stuff, right? Like, I don't have information or there's silence, whatever. And I go into, I mean, and the stories I tell myself are like horrible, or the stories that I hear are just horrible. And I know, a lot of it's from childhood, a lot of it's, things from the collective, whatever. Um, so I kind of asked the universe, like, hey, how can I start to heal this and rewire this, but also like start to kind of step back and not be so attached to these things that, are there. So in this podcast episode, he goes through this really simple process, and what he ends up doing is like bringing it back to the breath, right? So you're kind of shifting these stories that you have around, um, oh, poor pitiful me, like I have to feel everybody else's stuff. It could, like I'm saying it that way because that's how we show up a lot of times, right? To like rewiring the story, rewriting it. And again, you can listen to the podcast if you want to, but you at the end of like um going through the process and reading back your story, at the end of each sentence, like you take a deep breath and you bring the breath to it, just what you were talking about doing in that room. And I feel like bringing the breath to it is so powerful, right? Because what happens when you have trauma is like it gets stuck in your body. You kind of tense up, you go into fight or flight, you're not breathing. The energy is not moving through your body, which is what causes these blockages that we have, right? So then something happens and it like bumps up against this shit that you've been holding inside of your body for 20 years. It's not really that situation. It's like it's hitting that blockage that you haven't been able to release. So when you bring the breath to it, when you bring just your loving, kind awareness to it, that's really what allows you to shift the energy. It allows you to kind of step back and become the observer. It allows you to step back and look at things in a different way. Well, okay, is that really what's happening right now? Or is this just reminding me of a situation from my past? And I'm assuming that it's the same thing. I'm assuming that the situation is just going to be a repeat of my past. So, bringing that, right, the awareness, the breath, the curiosity. I love that you like had all of those things in that example that you gave, because it is, right, it is really powerful to come at it from that angle rather than, and I'm I hate it when the universe, well, not hate it. I get where I'm like, yeah, I hear you. Because it's again, like as we're sharing, and it's like we're given insights for our own lives, right? As we talk about things, it like brings us clarity. But kind of all these little like pieces are um landing in my awareness right now about different things that, I've been struggling with personally. I One of the areas that a lot of this has shown up for me is like in interpersonal relationships. So whether that's at work or whether that's friendships, like dating, I, if you ask me, like Robin, grounded Robin, yes, I trust people. I love people. I see people, right? We all make mistakes. We all, whatever. But sometimes in certain situations, it can be very hard for me to maintain that. Like I can get very triggered and I go into like protection mode, right? I found myself very hurt by people when I was younger because I was so sensitive. I was so open. Um, I took things very personally, right? Somebody was doing something that didn't really, right, didn't always have it wasn't directly related to me, but I would take it very personally because I was involved or like I was affected by it. So, um, continuing to show up and like rewire that it's been really beautiful and it's been such a process. And like, I see how different I am. Like, I see how much I'm able to like show up and be vulnerable with people. But in some situations, it's still really freaking hard. Like, I'm vulnerable or I open myself up and I can feel like, oh my God, what did you do? Like, don't do that. Like, so having again to bring the breath to it, like, you're okay, you're safe. This isn't the same situation that it was 20 years ago. Like, you're okay. So again, I think these themes are going to continue to come up because we do have so much Aries energy right now. We do have this fast fire horse energy that's coming through. It's just, and I think collectively it is energy that we are healing, right? Trying to We see it so much. There's such a divide with like politics and LGBTQ issues and um, just there's so many things that we can be so divided on or that we can assume that that we can't see eye to eye on or that we can't come together because we have different viewpoints. But it's like, yes, you can have your views and you can believe something, but also that doesn't mean that you can't also, you know, I'm hearing like break bread, but you know what I mean? Like that doesn't also mean that you can't engage with another person or that you can't have a really great relationship with somebody just because of all these other things. So I think the relationship theme is going to continue to come up collectively. So yeah, I don't know, just be prepared for it, I guess. I'm prepared for it, I guess.
Well, and I think that that's really, I feel like at this time, we're really being called to live life and learn through what we do in our day to day and learn through our relationships. And yes, mystical experiences are great. Retreats, conferences, workshops, all of that is wonderful, but it's what you do with that in your day to day, in the real world, that really starts changing who you are and really opens your heart to those around. As we're moving into these higher dimensions, it's really fourth dimension is heart centered. Like, how are you engaging with others? What is the energy signature that you're putting out? And that can only really be shown in our interactions in relationship and with other people, even if it's going to the store, the grocery store, online. Like, it's so funny because our relationships have changed. Yes, there's Facebook and online and there's all these things, and sometimes we see some of the worst behavior from people behind a keyboard. So it's like, how clean are you being in the ways that you show up when no one is there to hold you accountable?
Yeah.
What can you do to help that and to give yourself peace and space and give others the same? So, it's really where the rubber meets the road is how are we showing up day to day to ourselves, to our pets, to our spouses or our roommates or our loved ones or those people that we will probably never see again. Like that's really for me where the integrity lies is, how are you showing up to somebody whose opinion of you doesn't even matter.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I mean, again, like things are kind of clicking into place with our conversation. It's the Pluto and Aquarius energy, right? Pluto is the slowest moving planet. So it creates these generational changes in our collective energy, right? So if you look back to Pluto during the medieval times, I don't even know where it was, but right, like there's really big themes that kind of unfold and happen when Pluto is in a sign and in an energy. Um, it's there for like 40 years, right? Isn't that so? Pluto moved into Aquarius, and Aquarius is a lot about the collective. It's a lot about how we show up online, how we interact with people, like how we interact with humanity, our community, not only our local community, but now our global community, because we can be interactive with people across the world, just in a second's time. Like we have so much more accessibility than we ever did before. So it makes sense that that energy and that dynamic is like continuing to come through. Which I hadn't really, when I was looking at Pluto before, I was kind of looking at it in my own where it was showing up for me personally. But um, obviously, it is also the bigger long term generational planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too. It makes me want to look. I forget I forget what it is that I have in Aquarius. It might even be my midheaven.
Mm,
But it made me realize that there, and it kind of goes what we were talking about before, like boundaries and permeability, like very much placements in my chart lend me to be aware of the collective.
mm,
So whether or not, somebody tells me what's going on, I have an idea. And so to be able
mm,
to be like, okay, like wake up in the morning, okay, let's, reorient to me. So like, okay, I feel where the collective is, and let's reorient to who I am. And that's really made for me not just like my transits, but actually looking at like where is the chart today? Like what does that
mm,
look like for the collective today? What are those themes? And then being more aware of like what personally and being able to see that dichotomy, it really clarifies that like what is mine, what is not mine, but also like, okay, looks like people are having a hard time today. I'm going to be kinder. Like, how can I show up kinder? How can I show up more understanding? Or, like, yep, there's a lot of fire going on. How can I step back and not engage and not feed what's already kind of billowing out of control?
yeah.
So, just really kind of centering myself in like, what is my best service to myself today? And what is my best service energetically to the collective? And being able to kind of move throughout that. So I've really found for myself that looking at what the collective energy, like what is the astrological chart for today, really informs me in a different way. And I can say, oh yeah, like that's collective. That's not mine. Like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little like stirred up, riled up. Oh, okay, yeah, but that's not my piece. So it just, that awareness has really helped me stay in my lane and stay in my present. And just getting like, sometimes I'll find myself just feeling that like stuff like boiling up and over. And I'm like, let me stop. Let me take a couple breaths. Like you're saying, the breath is so important. Pull myself into now, like right now, am I safe? Am I like, yeah, everything's okay. Ah, there's stuff going on. Okay. And it's not
Mm,
mine, and that's okay. And just really shifting even where I sit in my body. So, all of these different places, the pausing, the breathing has created a lot of space for awareness of what's going on. And, seeing these placements in my chart, it's like, yeah, it is important for me to know in some way. It is feeding into how I'm showing up, but I also need to realize it doesn't have to take my energy.
yeah. Yes. Very good point. Um, are you feeling like we're at a natural kind of close? Is there any? I know we both brought our cards. Do we want to pull cards of
We
any sort?
do.
We
Yeah.
do.
We do. So I want to go first if you don't mind.
Okay. Yes.
So this right here, the Shaman's Dream, is my favorite deck ever, 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 ever. And I got it from one of our teachers, Rob and I's teachers. And I can honestly say It is the most gifted deck. Like I've probably given this deck of cards to like five other people, and it's so funny because it's something that they kind of come back to.
Mm,
So I will pull a card from this. I love it so much. It just has such good, it's so good.
I
I mean,
don't
it's
know.
a deck that you could pull like every day, and
Yeah.
usually you can get something different. And sometimes it's like, nope, you're sticking with this one. So that's my little commercial for the Shaman's Dream Oracle.
Love it.
All right. So what is there for us, for Robin and I and everybody who's watching us with season two? What is the energy that we're bringing through right now? Oh, a tidy house, clarity and organization. And it's so funny because it's a one. Boop.
Hmm. Looks very fiery too.
And then it's funny. So I'm going to show you both because I was trying to pull one and I got two. So the other one is 44, the perfect storm, the courage to step into life. So
Mm,
we are very much tidying up our house. It's very fiery. It's a number one. And I know that for me, clarity and organization, I don't know what it is because I know we've got fire horse energy, but myself and a lot of people I've talked to recently have been like, I really just want to focus on getting my home in order. I want to clean and declutter, and everybody's asking for clarity, but it's so fascinating that in the same token, they're also really like focusing on wanting to settle in their house, in their home, to take care of that, to really create a strong foundation. So that's fun. And then we've got the 44, which is the perfect storm. And that's also what I feel like, a lot of my kind of Scorpio leaning in transformation is I'm going to show up for whatever life is bringing me today. I'm going to ride that wave and see where it leads me. And I think that's great for all of us. I will also say, like, as much as we talked about some difficult times that I've addressed, there's also been full on days, weekends where I've just rested, been in the bed, spoiled myself, taken a hot bath, eaten delicious fruit. So there's definitely this idea of just paying attention to our cycles and when we need rest, getting rest. And so because of that, because I am resting more deeply than I've ever rested and allowing that space, I also feel like when I'm ready, like when the universe is like, here's a lesson, I'm like, let's do it because I have the energy to be
yeah.
excited about it. So it's
Mm.
really important to have that rest and to allow that cycle.
I want to share something because it feels appropriate, and I've definitely seen it in my own life. And like, I don't have clutter because I have a tiny-ish house, and I keep things very. I mean, I'm sure I could still go through and like tidy things up, but one thing that I have realized very strongly in my life is that if you feel stuck, or if you feel like you want to change something, or if you feel like you're manifesting, like one of the most powerful ways that you can allow that energy into your life is to clean things out of your home, throw a fresh thing of paint on the walls. Like
Mhm.
anytime that you move the energy in your physical surroundings, your life is transforming. Like I look back at my life through different periods of time where I was really, and there's still projects I want to do around the house. That I feel like is me also allowing that energy to come in and to shift. You will find yourself wanting to clean things out, to organize things. So just allow yourself to be in that space if you're feeling the call. And if you have a hard time with it, right, ask a friend to come over and to help, or ask your angels, ask your guides. Like anybody who knows me knows that I love to like organize stuff. And a lot of times, like I stayed at my sister's house, I don't know, a couple weeks ago with my mom, and I just all of a sudden I wasn't even planning on it, but I found myself like pulling things out of the refrigerator and just like organizing, and I felt bad afterwards. I was like, I really should have asked her if she was okay with it, but because some people are more into it than others. But I didn't toss anything out. I just like wiped off the shelf and like put all the milk together, put all the creamer together. It really does help to move the energy and to open to create space, right? Because our physical possessions, our physical surroundings are a mirror sometimes of our internal landscape. So it's like if you want to shift things, if you want to create space in your life, doing that very intentionally can be really powerful. Like I've seen it so much personally. So and I love to do it. I do have a gift with it. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's see. I've been working with the goddess deck. So let's see what cards, anything we need to know from the goddess deck. It's a good old Doreen Virtue. And I know that Doreen, she's gone back and forth with her viewpoints on the angels and all things spiritual, but I don't care. I like her oracle cards and whatever. All right, anything that we need to know that would be helpful for us. Isolt, undying love. The love you have shared is eternal regardless of the situation. Yeah, her.
Oh, she's pretty.
Yeah, I like all the flowers. I think it's fitting for springtime. All right, and then let's see what else must come through. Hathor, receptivity. Allow yourself to receive. This will increase your intuition, energy, and ability to give to others. All right. So if you're into working with the energies, you can call on the goddess energies and ask them for support, ask them for healing, ask them for insights. Um, set up your little altar, read about the goddesses, and see what wants to come through because they will help us. Just have to ask. It's that receptivity, right? And you got to create the space for it. So if your life is all junked up and you have too much crap, you can't really receive. You got to create the space for it. All right. Thank you. You good, Jessica?
I am good.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, it's just hoping and visualizing that until we chat next time and, for forever, that things continue to go well for you, that you continue to heal and grow and learn and love and accept yourself, and that you continue to come back and chat with us and share. Reach out to either of us on the socials, all the things, we'll share how to get a hold of us and just let us know if there's any topics that you want us to focus on. Share with us anything that you loved. If you got some BS, don't be coming up in here with that. We're not down for that.
No, no BS. All the
Take
good
that
things.
somewhere else. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Bye.
I can see the stars align, dance around the moon every night. And now my eyes are open wide, and the sky has never looked so bright. Now I don't need to see the road to believe, to believe.